Hi, I'm going to read a story called The Ugly Duckling, and it was written by Hans Christian Andersen back in the early 1800s, so it's a really old story. This particular book is retold and illustrated by Rachel Isadora. The Ugly Duckling. Once upon a time, at an old farm, a mother duck sat on her eggs. One by one, the shells began to crack, and out came 6 chirping ducklings. Beep, beep. But the biggest egg still did not hatch. "I will sit on it a while longer," said the mother duck. When the egg finally hatched, out came a strange-looking duckling who gazed up at his worried mother. "He is my child, but not at all like the others," she said. There's the one that just hatched. No one wanted to play with the poor ugly duckling. He was large and clumsy and so different from his brothers and sisters. All the animals on the farm laughed at him and teased him. There he is. At night, the ugly duckling would cry himself to sleep. One day, the duckling felt he had no choice but to fly away. He came to a pond where some wild ducks lived. "Do you know of any ducklings with gray feathers like me?" he asked. "No," they all said. "We don't know any ducklings as ugly as you." Wow, that's pretty mean. The duckling then came upon a pair of geese who warned him not to stay at the pond. "It's dangerous here. There are men and dogs hunting." Just then, pop, pop, sounded in the air, and 2 geese fell from the sky. The frightened duckling tried to hide, but a large dog ran up to him. The dog's jaws were open, showing his sharp teeth. Just as suddenly, the dog went on his way without touching the ugly duckling. "Oh," thought the duckling, "now I am thankful I am so ugly. Even a dog will not bite me." When the hunters were gone, the duckling ran off. A storm was blowing, so he sneaked inside a hut. Here he found an old woman with her beloved cat and hen. "What a prize," the woman said when she spotted the duckling. "Now I shall have some duck eggs." But after many weeks, there were no eggs. "Well, you can't lay eggs like me," said hen. "Can you purr like cat?" "No," said the duckling, "but I like to swim and dive." The hen and cat laughed at his foolishness. "They don't understand me either," thought the duckling. "I think I will go back out into the world," he told them. "Yes," said the hen, "do go." Back at the pond, the duckling would swim and dive each day. Still, no creatures would come near him. One fall evening, he saw a flock of the most beautiful birds. He was filled with longing If only I could be as lovely as they, the ugly duckling sighed. Winter came and the land was covered with snow and ice. One day, as the poor duckling tried to find food, he dropped, exhausted, to the ground. A kind farmer came upon him. "I'll take him home so that my children can look after him. Poor thing, he's frozen." The duckling was showed kindness, and in this way he survived the cold winter. By the time spring arrived, the duckling had grown so large that the farmer set him free on the pond. That is when the duckling saw himself mirrored in the water. "Goodness, how I have changed! I don't recognize myself at all." What did he become? What was he all along? At that moment, the beautiful birds he had seen before glided into the pond. When the duckling saw them, he realized he was one of them. They surrounded him and stroked his long neck with their beaks as a welcome. Some children came to see the birds, and one of them exclaimed, "Look at the new swan! He is the most beautiful of all." At first, the young swan was shy and could not believe his good fortune. "I never dreamed of such happiness as this when I was an ugly duckling," he said to himself. Then the young swan rustled his feathers, curved his long, slender neck, and glided onto the water into the bright sunlight. And that is the end of our story. So there's some lessons that we can learn from the story, The Ugly Duckling. Okay, first of all, the first thing that comes to mind is words can hurt. Okay, it shouldn't matter what anybody looks like, how anybody acts, how anybody talks. You should use kind, polite words, because those words that aren't polite and kind hurt. The next lesson, don't judge others by the way they look. If you don't know someone and you just judge them by the way they look and you think, not for me, you could be really missing out on a wonderful person. So don't judge people by the way they look. And the last lesson that I wrote down is we all develop differently. Okay, some of us are taller, some are shorter, some have big noses, some have little noses. Everyone is different. Everyone looks different. Wouldn't it be a boring world if we all looked the same? But we shouldn't make fun of people if maybe they're not as tall as you are, or maybe they're not the tallest person in class, because you never know. As they grow up, they may end up being that tall person, or they may end up just being wonderful and look very wonderful. Even when developing can also refer to learning. Okay, everybody learns at a different rate. I think the bottom line is we have to remember that words can hurt people. We shouldn't judge people, and we should be kind all the time.